watching The Paul Stefan Show on TV Free Baltimore.
Hello, I'm Paul Stefan, and on today's show we have our guest, Ms. Cheryl DePace, and she is well known in, I guess, the spiritual healing realm, and we'll be going over some of those things with her today. So welcome, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Now, first tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I'm an Army brat,
Okay.
and I grew up moving around a lot. I spent the first 4 or 5 years after the age of 2 in Italy,
Oh, okay.
and I am 100% Italian.
Okay.
So I got to meet relatives that I never would have met. And then we moved a lot. My dad was in the Army, and he retired as lieutenant colonel with the intelligence division.
Oh, okay.
And so I grew up with a very military and patriotic environment. So I'm someone who was raised to believe in the American dream. I did well in school. I was shy until I hit about 30. And then I did some work on myself and did some public speaking and got more out of myself. Going to the beginning, I was born with a veil.
Oh, and explain that to people. A lot of people talk about that either, as you said, a veil, or somebody said the cowl. Yeah.
Right. It's just a piece of skin over your face.
But what it's supposed to mean?
It's a significator of the fact that my 5 senses, or my 6 senses, are stronger than most people, and it gives me more of a mystic facet to my being. I would say my personality, but it's really to my whole being, the way I view life, the way I live it.
Okay.
I have always wanted to be a spiritual healer. I have always known that I had gifts, but I was afraid to use them because I didn't want to use them in the wrong way. Born and raised Catholic.
And when would you
That
say...
says a lot.
I was going to say, but when would you say you first noticed that you had some, we'll call, enhanced ability?
When I was very young, I was about 6, and I was in Italy, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and my whole room was lit up with light, and I had an exchange. I mean, I was a young child, so I know that it wasn't a conversation that you and I would have.
Right.
But the basic understanding that I got from this presence was that there are angels and God is real and powerful, and if I was a good girl and did the right things, that I would be able to use some special gifts that I had. And that was when I was told, and then as I remained in Italy until I was 6. So I had an invisible friend. And my parents got a kick out of it. She has an invisible friend.
Which a lot of kids have what they call an imaginary playmate.
Yeah, I did. But he was not imaginary. He was on the other side. And I would go out and play by myself in the tall grass in Italy that they had in the back of the apartments. And I would go and find him, and we would chase each other. That was our favorite thing. And I could draw what he looks like. I mean, it was not a subtle thing. I mean, he was real for me.
Looking back, though, would you describe that he was like a spiritual guide, or was he your angel? Or what might he have been?
I think that he was on the other side.
Just on the other side.
I think that he was a person that had passed, a young child that had passed.
Okay.
And knowing now, with what I know, he didn't belong where he was. But he was having fun with me. I mean, we had a great time. So that was another thing. And then just having this desire, I always had a desire to help people, heal them. I mean, imagine a 7-year-old and asking them, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Right.
And then they say, I want to be a healer.
Okay.
Yeah. That's kind of unusual.
Yeah, the adults, I'm sure, were kind of saying,
Yeah. And so then I started writing poetry at a very early age.
Okay.
Like I walked around with a pencil and a pad from the time I was 6 and practiced my handwriting. And as soon as I could write, I started writing poetry. And it was poetry that my parents were looking at as being far more mature than what would come out of a child my age.
Right.
And I remember that they sent me to a therapist.
Oh, my.
And they analyzed the poems. And I was too young to really go up to my parents and say, so what's the deal? What did you conclude?
Right.
But I do know that I never went back. They never took me back.
Took you back to the therapist?
To the therapist.
Okay.
So that was another sign. And then my dreams, I would dream things and they would come true.
Oh.
And
were they lucid dreams?
Very lucid, color.
It was
full dreams.
Full color.
Full
dreams.
color, sound. Like I can't relate to anyone who says I dream in black and white.
Okay. And so you still do this. When you dream, it's still in Technicolor.
It is.
Okay.
It is. And there are parts that I remember, where I can tell you exactly what color I was wearing and, so.
And the dreams tended to be prophetic?
Yeah.
Okay.
So then I started writing poems that were prophetic from the dreams.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then you fast forward, and I had a very spiritual way about me, and I experienced things that people don't normally experience. Like, one example is I had a dream about a friend, and in the dream, his father was standing behind him, and the father said that this person, his son, would lose his marbles all the time. Okay? So a day later, after the dream, I found the exact blue marble that the father showed me in the dream. It was the exact same thing. And I was just walking along, looking at the ground, and there it was. And it was just striking that this marble was exactly the same color, the size, everything of the marble that the father showed me in the dream. And then 2 months later, I found a very large version of the same marble.
Really?
And it was at the end of my relationship with this person.
Wow.
So it's almost like I told you so. Very interesting.
Did you share these things with your parents when you were a girl?
No, it's funny, but parents and relatives, they don't exactly fall in line when you start telling them things like, I dreamt about so-and-so and I dreamt this and it happened. They sort of like, oh, well, dreams don't really mean anything,
Yeah.
and you shouldn't take that seriously.
Right. 'Cause
Kind
your
of
father
thing.
was military, so you figure he might say, that's a little out there for me.
Well, actually, my father kept it under wraps, but he had the gift. I got it from
Oh, he
somebody.
did?
Yes. My grandmother, his mother, had the gift,
Ah.
and he had it because there were conversations where I talked with him, and he said, if you don't figure this out, this is going to happen. Or I see you not doing that class, like you said, and he knew, but he would never let on that he had psychic abilities.
He never told you that.
No, but I do know that he worked for the Army in remote viewing at Fort Meade.
Okay.
So it wasn't a total secret.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then moving forward, I just read every book that I could. I had a hunger for reading about the spiritual life and world, and I went to many different churches and listened to what they had to say. I read all these books that I told you, and some of them would literally fall off the shelf when I walked by.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'd pick it up and it'd be just the right book. So for a long time, I read a lot of books. And then I started to experiment with what it was that I knew and what I was told we could all do if we cultivated it in ourselves. And that's when things really started to happen.
Oh, okay.
Okay. The biggest thing that stands out in my mind is that I went to see a woman who was a hands-on healer.
Okay.
She was Catholic, a nun, and she had a vision of the Blessed Mother. And when she had that vision, she became a healer, hands-on healer. So I wanted to go to her because I felt like my heart wasn't open. I felt stifled, and I knew that I needed some special help. Well, I placed a call to her, left a message, and I didn't hear anything back. And I was disappointed. And I went to a different healer who was really good, Episcopal priest, a man, and went on with my life. And then, like 6 months later, I get this very strange call. And she says, I am the administrative assistant for Anna Marie Hancock. That was her name. And you can Google her, find out more about her. But she said, we were standing next to each other and we smelled roses. And that's the presence of the Blessed Mother. Because we're Catholic and, we believe that the Blessed Mother is a significant figure to consider in your spiritual life.
Right.
And she said, we smelled these roses. And Anna Marie opened her purse, and laying on the top of the items she had in her purse, on the top, was my phone number.
Interesting.
My name and my phone number. And Anna Marie never saw that message. So I got a call from her administrative assistant to say, you're being called by the Blessed Mother. And I'm like, at last, I get the hands-on healing that I wanted. So I went, and she laid her hands on me and prayed. And then the Episcopal priest, who had the hands-on healing, also laid his hands on me too. And from that point on, I experienced a transformation where my heart was open, and my gifts became a source of possibilities where I could heal people, of not change what is destined for them by what their choices are, but to be able to change the energy that they had around them, which in turn helped them to change their thinking and their emotional expression of what it is that they want to do.
Right. Well, I was going to say that, I think we talk about the Catholic Church. I think it was St. Teresa of Avila or something that had these spiritual abilities and special, relationship with the Virgin Mother. And she had sort of a gift. And did you ever at any point when you were younger, I guess, say, well, maybe I should join a particular order or be a nun or anything like that?
Well, I did think about it, but I am not cut out for that.
Okay.
I like men, so
Okay.
I couldn't do that because I probably would get myself in trouble.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
just didn't think that it would work out. But if nuns could have a husband,
Right.
I would have.
You would have, yeah.
Yeah,
Now, an interesting
absolutely.
thing is, I had some thoughts when you were talking about when you were a kid and you say, I want to be healer, and then of course you got on to become hands-on healer and working with energy. There are all these people out there in the evangelical movement. They're faith healers, and way back with the tent shows and everything, and they were obviously many of them phony.
Right.
And so, in a sense, how do you, in a sense, distinguish yourself from that for people saying, oh, you're just one of those faith healers?
Well, first of all, I do not tell people what is going to happen to them.
Okay.
To include, I'm going to heal you by your faith. No. Things are going to change on an energetic level when I work with someone, and how that outpictures itself is really up to the individual and where they're at. And a person who is not genuine will try to amaze other people about what they know. And so they'll say, your girlfriend is going to die when she's 64, and her initials are such and such. And these people do have correct information, but where they're getting the information is suspect, because it deters the person from making their own choices and recognizing their power, their own personal power. Because we can all do these things. And I am a Christian, and I do recall that Christ said, you will do things like I do, but then again, much more so. You can do more, even more. So he encouraged people to grow, and telling someone what their future is not my bag. Now, what I do is I look at the present circumstances they're in. I use cards to trigger my abilities, but then what happens about 1/3 of the way through the reading, I start telling them something, and then I pull a card and it matches what I've already told them. So that's the cards are to trigger that right brain activity, and then the left brain is the detail-oriented, explain, but you pick up information.
All right.
And I really don't know how, other than that it does have to do with the level of energy, the frequency of the energy. So I pray before I do reading, and I try to raise my consciousness up to a level where I can communicate with angels, which is, along with the Blessed Mother being something that is not accepted. Angels are accepted by all religions. And there are amazing stories about angels. And so the next step in my evolution after my heart was opened,
Okay, let's hear about that.
the next step was that I started to get visions when I prayed. And the first visions were of this group of beings that were very tall, They had white hair, most of them, and beards. And they were extremely wise. And they started to communicate with me about what I could do, where it would come from, what the no-nos were.
Oh, okay.
To remain spiritually correct so that I do not mislead anyone or cause bad karma, which would be, I mean, when I say cause bad karma, it would be bad results from doing something that would harm someone. So it would be something might happen to me that reminds me, like me getting a taste of my own medicine.
Oh, okay.
You know? So once I got in touch with angels, it was all uphill from there on a fast speed. But I still did not feel comfortable doing readings.
Oh, okay.
And I went for a very long time working on my own. I created artwork that was of certain energy design that would affect change. And I experimented with that, and it worked.
Ah.
And those are secret designs that nobody has except for me.
Oh, okay.
And then I entered another period where I started to work with people on a volunteer basis. I took a 2-year sabbatical from work, and I practiced using my abilities and working with energy. And that brought me to a point of a higher level of confidence. And then, as things started to really happen, like things moving in my house.
Objects moved.
Objects moving in my house.
Okay.
People that I prayed for, objects moving in their house. I lived in Charlottesville, Virginia for a while, and a guy that I was seeing was not being very nice to me. And I was upstairs in my room. He was downstairs on the couch. The next morning I came down and he was packed and ready to go, sitting on the couch, extremely nervous. And I asked him what was wrong. And he said, I don't know what you do in this house, but I was lifted 3 feet off the ground last night and dropped by something. So I'm leaving. Because he was supposed to stay for a couple of days.
Oh, okay.
I'm getting the H out of here. And I was like, wow, that's pretty freaky. You know? I didn't really believe it at first. And then, short time after that, I had a little sign on my wall. It said, bless this home. You know, one of those blessing signs. And I was vacuuming, and I was thinking about this guy getting picked up and dropped. And all of a sudden, the thing flew off the wall, and I had that on the wall for a very long time. There was a square where it came off, you know, where it was clean, the wall was clean.
And it flew off the wall.
It flew off the wall, and it was, God bless this home, you know. So there are many stories. You don't want to get me started.
No, we might at some point have you back for that too.
Yeah.
But I know what fascinated me a little bit, one of the things I saw here, it said that you do hands-on healing for the church.
Yeah.
Is that true? For the Catholic Church?
Well, no. They don't really.
I didn't think so.
They don't really.
But for a church.
Yes, I did it for a church. And at that church, there were people of different religions.
Oh, okay.
Who had that ability.
Oh, okay.
And I sat in the audience, and the priest called me up and said, Cheryl, I would like for you to come up here and join us. And that's how I first experienced that. I did a lot of studying into energy work.
I saw something about you're certified.
I am certified.
Certified in what, though?
I'm certified. I'm an advanced One Brain practitioner.
Okay.
And One Brain is an energy work that basically focuses on learning disabilities and trapped emotions, where something traumatic has happened and we stuff it, and where it goes is somewhere in the body. And so I learned how to release those things and free the person of the ramifications behind the change in their energy that was produced by that negative thing. Once it's released, their energy changes, becomes of a higher frequency, and they attract the law of attraction. They attract a higher frequency of people and situations. So when you change one person, they're connected with all kinds of other people. That produces a change.
So what you're really doing when you talk about the hands-on healing and the energy work, it's working with a person's energy field.
Right.
You're not hands-on like a lot of people think, oh, you put your hand on somebody's leg and then they say, you can walk, that kind of thing. Not that kind of hands-on healing.
Well, the healing that I have witnessed has always been emotional, mental, spiritual, and at times physical.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
It can happen.
I've had doctors send people to me because they could not figure out what was going on. They couldn't fix the problem. I'll give you one example that was pretty strong evidence.
Okay.
Young girl, 10 years old. Mother comes to me. She's at her wit's end. She said, my child will not go out in the sun. She refuses to go out in the sun. I brought her to the doctor. The doctor said she's not allergic. There's no reason why she can't go out in the sun. But my child refuses to go out in the sun. Well, energy, negative energy can attach itself to people. You go into a negative environment, and if you're like a sponge, you can soak it up, right? Well, I told the lady, I said, bring your daughter in.
Okay.
And she got a kick out of it, of course. She laid on a table, a massage table, and I worked with her energy, and I found a very large negative energy that was attached to her. And so it was very powerful. And I needed a lot of energy to release it. So I said to the mother, let's go in the other room. We're going to pray. We're going to surround your daughter with white light, and we're going to remove a negative energy that has been holding her back. And as we prayed in the other room, in my mind's eye, I could see this thing roll off of her. It was very dark, very big. You can't see it with the regular physical eyes, but inside of my head, I could see this thing roll off of her. And it stayed. And I said to the mother, I said, it's all for your daughter, but we need to get it out of here because it may decide to attach itself to you or me, So, long story short, we accomplished the task. And about a year later, I had moved. I had gotten out of doing that work because I had to get a real job. And I got a message on my phone. This is back when they had answering machines. No cell phones.
Yeah, of course.
And it was this child's mother, and she said, I have a gift for you from my daughter. So I said, okay, well, come on over. This is my address. And she came over, and the daughter had drawn me a picture of the sun and wrote my name on it. And the mother told me that after I worked on her, she went out, played in the yard, and never refused to go back out in the sun. So, and I had this beautiful picture of the sun that she drew for me to show me that she loved the sun and that she was not.
Well, it's a great story.
It is.
Well, now, I mean, when you do this, sometimes I've heard with other people too, do you sort of like, when you're altering energy, you're working with energy, do you radiate heat at all? Some people say you feel the heat coming off of your hands. Yeah.
Yes, my hands get hot, and I don't have to touch the person.
Right.
Prefer not to, really.
Right.
Because that might require licensing for massage therapy, okay?
Right.
I don't touch them. But I just hold my hands over them, and they feel the heat. They feel the energy.
Right, exactly.
And depending on what I'm doing, I may run energy through their body to get it out, or I may focus on one area to pull off. But I always replace, when I take a negative energy away, I replace it with light. Always. Because nature abhors a vacuum. I don't want that person walking away open to something obnoxious to come along and attach, make things worse.
Yeah.
You know. So it's a procedure of getting rid of the negative and bringing in the positive,
Right.
thereby raising the frequency of the energy that the person is emitting out and attracting higher vibration things,
Yeah.
people, places, experiences, synchronicities.
Yes. Would people say at some point or get confused, or maybe they have approached you, say, we would like you to do an exorcism?
I've been involved in that too.
You have been involved.
Yes, and it just about killed me. And I mean that literally. The entity was so strong that the energy centers in my body were shutting down. And luckily I had a partner, it was like a business partner, but a healing partner, whatever.
Sure.
And he understood what was going on. My energy centers were almost all closed down, and that means that I would have died because my energy would have left my body and not been able to come back in and stay in there. And he worked on me. And he told me he'd never seen anybody close down like that. But in order to get rid of this entity, I had to use a lot of energy. And the mistake I made was, at that time, I wasn't calling on angels to do it for me.
Oh.
I ran the energy through my body. And so I didn't replace the vacuum in myself
Right.
with light. And I never should have really performed that task on my own. So that was a real eye-opener for me, to recognize my limits and not to pursue something so obnoxious,
Right.
without having help.
Now, what you talk about these, negative energy that
Yeah.
you see. Do you ever label it as something else? Some people will say, well, is that evil? Is that the devil? Do you believe in the devil?
Live, spelled backwards,
Yeah.
is evil.
Yes.
What I believe in is, yes, I believe in dark angels. I believe that there is evil. However, if one is attuned to a higher vibration, this evil can only change your perception. Now, that's a very powerful thing, because I have dealt with people who hold a low opinion of me because they don't see me as I am. And it is a perceptual problem. Well, that's evil. It's turning things around so that you don't see them correctly.
Right.
But Satan cannot hurt God's child unless they invite him in, and that can happen, and God bless them, because they're in for a ride. But they can confuse you, they can throw shadows at you, and I believe that it's meant to be that way, because we have our spiritual muscles need to be exercised in order to develop. Because when you pass to the other side, the frequency that you vibrate takes you where you're going to go. So, misperception is the devil's tool.
Okay.
Now, do I believe that people are evil? No.
Okay.
I believe that their perceptions can cause them to do heinous things. Or it can ruin a perfectly good relationship a misunderstanding, where that person just really believes that you're out to get them when you're not. Not at all. But they get an idea in their head and it destroys something beautiful. That's evil. That's Satan.
I think well said. Now, another aspect where I don't know where you would come in, or you've had an experience with this, is people who have a psychic ability, we'll call it, to perceive ghosts. They'll say, come to this house, we think our house is haunted. Can you pick it up that there's an entity here? Or, or even further, some people, and again, you get a lot of charlatans, say, well, can you contact Uncle Charlie for me? That kind of thing. Have you ever been called in to see if there was ghosts in a home or a place or bothering a person? Or
When I have, I've declined.
Okay.
I have perceived ghosts. I do not. I cannot, and I've seen. I have seen ghosts. I
Okay.
saw one in Jamaica that was really interesting.
Oh, okay.
But I think that ghosts need to be sent to where they belong. And so if they don't want to go, I have no use. There's no use for me in that situation.
Okay.
I'm not into phenomenon just for the sake of it.
Okay.
So yeah, I have sent people to the other side
Oh, okay.
by telling them that it is the light, not the dark, the light that they need to go to. They
Right.
need to go to the light.
Right.
And I've had ghosts fight me on it, knock things around in my house, knock things around in my friends, go home with my friends, and then they call me and say, I think it's here, Yeah, I've seen some things.
Okay.
But there's no usefulness in it unless they're willing to go home. I don't want to promote them staying around.
Right. Well, did you ever see the TV show The Ghost Whisperer?
Yeah,
She did that. She always told them, go to the light.
right.
Yeah.
That's more like what I would do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
And when they ask me about, is Uncle Charlie here?
yeah.
Uncle Charlie may communicate with me.
Yeah. Okay.
He may.
Okay.
But I'm not asking him to. And I don't like bothering people that are on the other side. Because they're having a totally different experience than we are.
Because some people think, they'll say, oh, somebody is trying to reach me from the other side, or they're giving me a message, or they want to give me a
Well,
message
they don't need me.
as the go-between.
Right.
Okay.
That person can communicate directly with them. When we dream, we do hover over our bodies. And we're in the astral plane, which is a higher vibration than physical,
Right.
solid matter. So when we dream about someone who is on the other side, we are probably literally interacting with them.
Wow. Now, this is all very interesting. We may have to have you back.
That would be fine.
Now, if people want to contact you in the use of your gifts,
Yeah.
how can they do that?
Well, they can call me on my phone.
Okay.
And my phone number is 410-302-6251.
Okay. Okay.
And it's very secret, very private. I make sure that they're comfortable to tell me what is going on with them.
Okay.
And a lot of them test me. They say, I'm not saying anything. I want you to tell me. Well, what I do is I start with the cards and I identify something that is going on and I embellish upon it because they don't have the peripheral vision that I do for them. And it engages them in a conversation. And then I explain to them, now you can either seek to be wowed by what I say to you, or you can use this as an opportunity to see where you're headed by the decisions you're making today and what the probabilities are and what is going on right now that you don't know about, and then you make your choices.
Right. Very good. Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to stop.
Okay.
But thank you for coming. This is fascinating. There's so many more things I could talk to you about.
Thank
and
you.
so I'm going to have you back.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
It was a pleasure.
Oh, same here. And well, folks, that's the end of our show for today with this fascinating guest, Cheryl DePace. Remember, when you're watching the Paul Stefan Show, don't forget to like us and to subscribe to TV Free Baltimore, the channel. We are here because we feel that everybody has a story to tell, and we're here to tell it. So until next time, with our next storyteller, this is Paul Stefan saying goodbye.
You're watching The Paul Stefan Show on TV Free